Hi, my name is Hanauer. I'm an artist from northern New Jersey. My studio is at the Riker Hill Art Park, which is a former Nike missile base, and now it's just used for artist studios. I am a sculptor and installation artist, self-taught. I began in the cadaver labs after a career in advertising, and from there just have explored materials. Everything that I do comes from the concept of what I'm working on, so sometimes I have to learn new materials in order to bring that concept forward. And I don't go by any rules, I just figure things out. This exhibition is on immigration, and it's actually a very personal story. It's about my two grandfathers that came to America as boys. One was 11, one was 13, and they escaped Russia and Russia occupied Poland to avoid going into the army, the Russian army, and they also escaped because life for Jewish people there was very, very difficult. There were pogroms, and so they both left their worlds and came here by themselves, left their families behind. It's kind of an unimaginable journey, but we see it today with children immigrating to the States as children without families. And what I've done was I've documented what their journey was like from stories I've heard and from research I've done. So I know, for example, I created a paper piece that is a suitcase that has stickers on it. And from that time period, people who traveled would gather stickers from countries that they visited or other destinations. And the stickers on the suitcase are about their courageous journey over and the character building that happened as a result. I also touch on how they may have felt being outsiders, speaking a different language. One of my pieces is deals with learning a new vocabulary, learning how to communicate in a new world. And because these boys basically had to hit the ground running and they had to work from day one, they were children, and so during the day they worked like adults, but at night when they got into bed they were children. And so this bed behind me, it's a paper bed made entirely out of paper. It's collaged with textbook material from elementary school books from the early 1900s, and they did not have the luxury of going to school when they got here. I have a piece behind me here, I Remember Mama, and this is my great-grandmother, and my grandfather never got to see her again. I also wanted to represent in this body of work, which was predominantly from a male perspective, very different from my previous work, a piece about the workforce, the female workforce in this country. And it often goes unnoticed, but these little girls and young women, they worked in factories where there was no lighting, there was no heating or air conditioning, there were no windows. It was very, very oppressive work. And my great-grandmother shared a story with my mother that when she left work and it was so cold and she was so hungry, she bought a potato on the street, a cooked potato, and it had frozen, and she bit into it and broke off a bunch of her teeth. My original piece for this show dealt with just conversations about immigration, and I created a piece of my grandfather's ties, and I originally had 27 ties, and each one had integrated into the design of the tie a reason why they came. What was the benefit of coming to America? And I redesigned that piece later on to include 7 ties, and I highlighted some of the main reasons why they came in the tie rack. Then I have the darkest piece in the show, which is called Survivor's Guilt, and I grapple with that if that title is correct. I mean, I know that my grandfathers had a lot of survivor's guilt right after the Holocaust, when they were able to have family members go back to their homeland, and nobody existed. They were all wiped out. And so what I did was I hand sewed gloves out of wire screen of window screening, and one for each of my family members who was murdered by the Nazis. And then my last piece in this show dealt with how immigrants were able to figure a life for themselves when there was very little money. And so they were able to take scraps of clothing and remake clothing for their families. They upcycled before it was fashionable to upcycle. And the one piece I forgot to mention was a weaving. It's 10 feet, hangs from the ceiling to floor, and it's a paper weaving of passenger lists from Ellis Island. It's about new communities that were formed as they passed through that portal. I think I would like for people, after seeing this exhibit, to begin dialogues about what makes people have to migrate. I think this survivor's guilt piece deals with the pure patriarchy, the extreme patriarchy that threatens everyone's existence. With the onset of this war that we're witnessing, I'm wondering about boundaries and borders. There's something that correlates to this exhibit, and not just country boundaries and borders, but very personal. Like, what do we let in? What is invited into our own space? This is my own personal reflection. Whether it will present in work, I'm not sure. But definitely within the space of immigration, migration, and personal comfort zone.